Alrighty, folks, welcome back. It's finally happening. I'm doing the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. We are continuing off on our second, well, not chapter, but second part of the Great Ace Attorney. Last where we left off, Susato-san had disguised herself as a man to save her best friend and pretending to be Naruhodo-san's distant relative or something like that. So, that's pretty funny. Now we're going to continue off into the next episode, which is episode 2 of the new, let's see, the Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro. Interesting.
It was a ghastly tale of a winter's night. One of an invisible killer and a crime perpetrated on the pavement along Briar Road. As the victim lay at death's door, the mystery of just who had stabbed the young lady from behind had been resolved. But no sooner had my friend saved that Eastern Exchange student from his harrowing plight than in the dim, flickering shadows of gaslight did a second bizarre crime rend the stillness of that very night. I dare say most can still recall the sensational headlines of the day. Haunted apartment of death, the condemned criminal's curse, the dread demon of coal gas. Yet, though the great detective had at once discerned the truth upon his arrival at the scene, it only proved to be the overture that announced the rising of the curtain on a most tragic play.
All right. Also, welcome, Sensei Waffle. This is just one of the games that I like from the series, the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, except it's in the 19th century. It's basically like you play as a lawyer and you try to represent, you know, defend your client, etc. It's kind of like anime slash just law, essentially, combined all together. It's kind of also a bit of detective work as well. Anyways, yeah, let me make sure I actually also put that, yeah, greatest, okay. I was making sure I didn't put, like, Hearts of Iron. Yeah, so, it's not for everybody. I know some people like it, but if you want to stick around and listen to me try to voice multiple people, go for it. Or if you want to stick to the story, it's also equally as good, except for certain parts. But anyways, defending the front like a hero, exactly. Except for, like, my first case, well, not my very first case, but at least my first case in London, I defended a murderer who also himself got murdered later. Yeah. Anyways, my name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I'm a fledgling lawyer, just starting out on my journey. 6 months ago, I arrived as a visiting student of law, having made the long voyage across the sea from the Empire of Japan to here, London, England. And on the way, in quite extraordinary circumstances, I made the acquaintance of a world-famous detective who honestly pisses me off. Currently, I reside in the attic of the detective's own lodgings, from where I run my legal consultancy of sorts. I've successfully defended a number of clients in Britain's highest court, the Old Bailey. But since a particularly grueling and unforgettable legal battle 4 months ago now, I haven't returned to the courtroom. In truth, I lost my right to return. But that epic trial was just one small part of an epic tale. A tale which was now about to awaken from slumber. Thanks to a letter that arrived this morning from my homeland. Fucking Christ. Could be me. It might, yeah, I don't think I'm running anything. I usually don't have any issues with lagging, so not sure. Good thing though, just in case, I'm upgrading my PC. What a delicious smell wafting up the stairs. It must be nearly time for breakfast. I better go down to Mr. Sholmes' suite and say good morning to the great detective and his flatmate. Alright, August 30th, 7:28 a.m. Sholmes' suite. Ah, Bruno, good! I was just about to call up to you. The bacon's ready. I don't even think bacon's actually a thing in Britain by this point. Maybe it was. Good morning, Iris. It smells delicious as usual. Before we eat, though, I have some news. I had a surprise. Shh! Not another word, Mr. Naruhodo. This could be just the abstruse thing for my pre-breakfast stagnation-repelling mental stimulation, my dear fellow. Morning to you too, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, yes, I see. So okay, oh, hey, fucking get out of my face. Okay, that's way too close and creepy. The truth is as clear to me as day. My faculties of observation have revealed it again. What are you talking about? You, Mr. Naruhodo, you have, this very morning, met with a surprise. Well, is that not the case? Really, my dear fellow, it barely warrants explanation. Firstly, your hair is particularly unkempt, somewhat reminiscent of a bird's nest. Secondly, you have neglected to fasten the third button of your jacket. Clearly, when considered together, these two facts point to you having been flustered this morning. Can I talk now? Ah, but of course. Though I don't look for admiration, you understand. My hair always looks like this, and it's been this way since I first met you. Oh, it has? And the button was ripped off last night, if you remember, by you. Harley pulled your button off? Ah, yes, I recall the incident now. It was after supper, was it not? As the evening advanced, I picked up my violin and began to play the wailing notes of a haunting tune. Then, to my utter dismay, the third string snapped. Why did it have to happen? Why? Little wonder, then, that in my vexation I grabbed the first button I saw and ripped it from its proper place. Why did you rip my button, though? Well, I like it back now, please. It's troubling me that I can't fasten my jacket. And it's troubling me that you expect me to know where it is. Somewhere thereabouts on the floor, one presumes. Helpful. What matters at the present time, my dear fellow, is simply whether or not my deduction was unerring. But Harley, Runa said it when he came in, didn't he? I had a surprise this morning. Oh shit, you're right. Well, that really is a surprise. This piece of shit. Yes, this man is the pride of the British Empire, the famous consulting detective, Mr. Sherlock Sholmes. There can't be a single person in the world who doesn't know his name. Alright then, enough of this silly conversation. Come and eat this bacon before it goes cold. And I have a new herbal tea for you to try too. My latest special blend. And here we have Iris Wilson, Mr. Sholmes' lodger and companion. A truly exceptional young girl who's the author of a highly successful serialization here in London. Yes, The Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes. It's published in Rance magazine. So, Mr. Naruhodo, won't you put us out of our misery? What surprised you this fine morning? Oh, well, I received a letter from Japan. Oh, from Susie, you mean? Was it really? Oh yeah, that's right, her name's Susie, not Susato. Never mind. Oh yeah, Susato was the friend that died at the very beginning. That's right. And she had some rather startling news, in fact. Ah, intriguing indeed. You must tell us all about it over breakfast. Oh yes, what fun. Alright. This is the letter that arrived from Japan this morning by international post. Oh, how lovely. Look at Susie's beautiful writing. I wish I could read it. Oh yeah, that's right, it's in Japanese. And how is your judicial assistant faring, may I ask? She's very well, thank you. In fact, according to what she's written, she actually appeared as a lawyer at the Japanese Supreme Court and won a case. Really? Oh, isn't she wonderful? Ah, cut above your good self, my dear fellow. I've won cases too, you know. Well, anyways, apparently Mr. Natsume appeared in the trial as a witness. Natsume? Natsume? No, I don't recall that name. Of course you do. We helped the man twice. You know, in those 2 cases that took place on Briar Road 6 months ago. Ah, the mustached twitchy man with somewhat feline eyes and a mustache. He didn't have 2 mustaches, Hurley. Yes, who could forget those 2 cases? They made a very deep impression on me. Although, I must confess, the details are a little hazy now. Very deep impression they made on you, clearly. So, what was the startling news penned by Miss Susato? Do you remember the case of the haunted lodgings, Mr. Sholmes? Oh yes, it's very interesting, you know. I don't feel entirely uncertain that a case of that nature did not occur. He's totally forgotten then. Anyway, in her letter, Miss Susato asks that we read over her case notes again and investigate further. Though it took place half a year ago, for what purpose? Because of something that Mr. Natsume said to her, apparently. He suggested that the real reason why she was called back to Japan so suddenly might have something to do with the case of the haunted lodgings. Oh? On Mr. Natsume's return to Japan, Miss Susato's father questioned him about the case, she says. And something Mr. Natsume said appeared to trouble Professor Mikotoba, prompting him to send that telegram. Oh, that case, yes. It was very strange, wasn't it? Yeah. And I had compiled the whole story into a nice, neat manuscript ready for publication, too. But then Hurley here was all funny about it, remember? He was very mean. Yeah, actually, in fact, because of that, this fucking shop owner died. That story must not be published, you said. Very mysteriously as well. Really? I said that? Are you sure? You perhaps know something about it as well, Mr. Sholmes? About why Miss Susato was suddenly told 4 months ago that she had to return to Japan? It's been 4 months now since we waved Susie off at Dover. It was such a shock, wasn't it? The way she just suddenly announced that she had to go back to Japan? Indeed, it was, due to a telegram she received from her homeland, I believe. That's right, telling her to return urgently. Yes, because her father had passed away. No, it's just said he was suffering from a high fever, the cause of which was unknown. He's not dead. But according to this letter, that news about her father's fever was just a ruse. A ruse? So Susie's daddy lied to her so that she'd make the voyage back home? Why would he do that? I have to admit, I have absolutely no idea. But she believes it's almost certainly related to the case of the haunted lodgings. Summoning her back to Japan so suddenly like that. Wonder what Miss Susato's father is hiding. Harley, do you know what it's all about? Fuck? Oh, okay, he's already in uniform. Well, who can say? What? But you just said... Please, I have engagements, my dear fellow. My calendar's quite surprisingly full today. And a stringent of analysis of the matter would be excessive, I feel. Even if I were quite at leisure. So, man the fort in my absence, won't you, Iris? I will, Hurley. Don't worry. See you later. He scuttled off rather quickly there. I think perhaps Professor Mikotoba isn't the only person hiding something here. Toseki-san was involved in 2 cases, but only one of them was forbidden from being published. By of all people, Mr. Sholmes. Aha! I found them at last! Iris, are they... The notes about the case? That's right. Susie and I compiled them together. The case of the haunted lodgings. Do you want to read them, Bruno? Absolutely. Thank you, Iris. I have no idea what secrets could still be hiding in the shadows of this case. but perhaps if I read over the notes again, something might come to light. That's the spirit. Why do you have your gun out? Fucking Christ, people are just carrying guns willy-nilly. And so, Iris and I decided to read over the case notes again together. Everything from what happened to our investigation and that fierce battle in court that followed. Reliving every detail. I just need to find a clue, and I have all the time in the world. Because of course, I'm no longer allowed to practice law in the courts of Great Britain. Yo, wait, what the fuck happened? What happened in the 4 months that passed? I got debarred. Oh, here we go. It was 6 months ago, a mysterious incident that unfolded on the wintry streets of London. A young woman was found lying on the snowy pavement of Briar Road with a knife in her back. Fortunately, her life was spared, but she was unconscious for several days following the incident. The fog was thick and nobody saw her attacker, but by a cruel twist of fate, a visiting Japanese student was walking behind her at the time and was duly arrested. That man was Suseki-san. The man who effected his arrest was Mr. Sholmes. Believing in our compatriot's innocence, Susato-san and I decided to represent Suseki-san in court. And after a grueling trial of many twists and turns, we finally managed to prove his innocence. Joyful, joyous, jubilant, jubilation! Was the man's reaction after the trial. But his jubilant jubilation was short-lived. We received a telegram from Mr. Sholmes the following morning. The victim of the Briar Road stabbing has regained consciousness. Oh, that was his voice. Hurry to Bart's at once. Okay. So Susato-san and I summoned a hansom and headed immediately to the hospital. Okay. Wait, so they did visit the victim? Interesting. Okay, we're now going back in time. There's a fucking rat. There you are at last! Good morning, Mr. Sholmes. I think not. Oh. You're late! What on earth took you so long? Your telegram only arrived at 5 o'clock, Mr. Sholmes, and it's a 20-minute ride to the hospital. That's right, and it's 5:30 now. I think we made very good time. That time is utterly irrelevant. The fact is, I have been waiting for what has felt like an eternity. In point of fact, I myself was awoken at 4 this morning by a telegram boy. And feeling it was somewhat unjust that I alone had been roused at such an hour, I sent one to you. Well, thanks for that. Anyway, you're here now, so the victim is over there. She's only just regained consciousness. You should introduce yourselves. I shall observe from here. So that's the lady who was found on the snow-covered pavement with the knife in her back. Her name is... Ah, yes, here we are. Miss Green. Alright, let's go talk to her. Good morning. Hello, I'm Rinosuke Naruhodo from the Empire of Japan. Oh no, was it your knife that... Are you the man who... No, I'm a lawyer. Oh, I'm Susato Mikotoba, pleased to meet you. Oh no, was it your knife then? Are you the one... No, I assure you, I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant. Oh god, she's gonna keep... We heard that you'd regained consciousness and wanted to come to give you your best wishes. Best wishes? For me? Thank you. I'm Olive Green. I'm an artist. Well, no, that's not right, is it? What I mean is, I'm trying to be an artist. Well, what I really mean is, I desperately want to be an artist.
But the truth is, I don't have any talent. I know I don't. It's no wonder I was stabbed in the back. Oh my god. I don't think that's related, actually. Maybe God was trying to stab her. Gosh, this young woman seems to bend over backwards to put herself down. Seeing as we're here, we should ask her about what happened from her perspective, I suppose. To suddenly be struck in the back by a blade as you were walking along the pavement. What a terrible experience you had, Miss Green. It was so cold that day, and the fog was so thick, I couldn't see a thing. That was 4 days ago now, I think. Is that right? Yes, that's right. I'm afraid you've been comatose all that time. But the case has been solved, hasn't it? While I've been here in the hospital, I mean.
Ah, indeed it has, my dear madam. Spectacularly. By none other than I, Herlock Okay, shut the fuck up, Herlock. You didn't solve shit.
Mr. Sholmes, as you well know, it was Mr. Naruhodo's hard work in court that solved the case.
Yeah, fuck you. Are you yet to hear what happened, Miss Green?
Yes, I'm afraid so. A gentleman from the police force is supposed to be coming to fill me in shortly.
Oh, I see.
Me coming round seems to have made everyone frantically busy. I'm so sorry. I should never have regained consciousness. It was selfish of me.
Oh god, this woman. Honestly, I want to give her a hug. She's been through so much.
Oh no, we're also relieved that you're on the mend, Miss Green. Really, we are.
Yeah, if anything, you surviving is good for us. With that kind of attitude, maybe her surname should be Blue, not Green. Yeah, she's kind of green. She's kind of blue. Blue attitude. So, you're an artist, aren't you? Are you Miss Green?
Oh, no. Oh, I couldn't possibly claim that. I'm a fledgling artist at best. I mean, I'm a student of art, really, at the Thorndike Academy of Fine Arts.
Oh my, an Academy of Fine Arts? Great Britain is such a wonderful country.
Tell me, Miss Green, do you live hereabouts?
Oh no, actually, I don't deserve it, but I have a little flat on Brixton Road.
I see. How very interesting.
Oh no, is it?
Brixton is some 10 stops away on the underground from here. And Thorndike Academy is a mere 3-minute walk from Brixton Town Center.
Does that matter, Mr. Sholmes?
Perhaps not, but Briar Road is a far less salubrious part of town by comparison, dwelt in by those of inferior means, including the maleficent Mr. Mustache.
Inferior means? I suppose Suseki-san doesn't fit the bill.
It struck me as somewhat out of the ordinary for a young fine arts student to be walking in such a district. That's all.
What's this? She's suddenly clammed up.
Mr. Sholmes, you should be ashamed of yourself, prying into a young maiden's private affairs.
Oh dear me, do forgive me.
If you don't mind, I'm being discharged shortly, so I need to pack up my things.
Oh, yes, of course. We won't keep you. Thank you so much, Miss Green. What is this rat doing here?
Eek! A mouse, Mr. Naruhodo. An enormous mouse!
Vermin in a hospital? Doesn't seem to be the best. It looks like a very healthy
specimen, doesn't it?
It's very plump. I'm not sure we can say that's down to the excellence of this facility, if that's what you were thinking. Okay, looks like we're done here, so I guess we can leave. We're now supposed to be here?
Oh, look, there's... Okay. I guess we'll talk to her. Iris? That's incredible concentration, that is. I find it quite remarkable how she can focus on so many different things at once. Perhaps I should try drinking more herbal tea. The blend third from the right would be good for you, Runo. Iris? This girl is destined for great things, I'm sure. That's cool. Really a nice side of the room. I'm sorry, what is that in the back? What is that? Ah, yes, this is where you note down ideas, isn't it, Iris? So what's on the blackboard today? Buck up, Bruno. Or Buck up, Bruno. What is this? Oh, I'm just playing around with the ideas for the title of next month's installment. Another idea I had was the barrel coronet. I'm really torn about which one to use. What do you think, Bruno? Anything but Buck up Bruno, obviously. I suppose you're right. I tell you what, I'll surprise you with it. You'll have to wait until next month and see. Ugh, so many sleepless nights. Okay. Interesting. Doesn't seem to be really anything else to do here. Can we go back upstairs? Alright, so I guess we actually need to stay and investigate. So let's look around. A big bag. That must be a bag of Miss Green's personal belongings. It would have been brought directly here after she was found stabbed on the pavement, though. I expect a friend or family member probably brought some things for her. Alright then, let's see what's inside. Change of clothes, no doubt, and... No, Mr. Naruhodo, you must never scrutinize a young maiden's personal belongings. Yeah, I was about to say, Naruhodo, you creep. But the young maiden might have chocolates or biscuits or caramel. What the fuck? Things like that. This rounded wooden figure isn't the most charming, is it? Ah, I don't think that's a decoration, Mr. Naruhodo. It's an artist's mannequin, I believe, used when practicing sketching the human form in different poses. Really? Not exactly what you'd call a typical figure for that purpose, though, is it? No, I suppose not. I confess, I've never seen one quite so full-figured before. You mean fat, fluffy. Well, if you want to draw a full-figured person, it's the right tool for the job. And who's this? Look, there's a photograph in this frame here. Oh, look at that guy. Oh yeah, it's a picture of a young gentleman. He looks to be about the same age as Miss Green, I would say. Perhaps the young woman's special someone, do you think? My, Mr. Naruhodo, I didn't know you had a sense for matters of the heart. Not in the least. I sincerely said the first thing I thought of. Okay. Is there a Mr. Narrowfodder here? Mr. Narrowfodder? Narrowfodder now? Well, if you're looking for Naruhodo, the lawyer, that's me, but... Ah, Mr. Narrowfodder. Good. This is for you. It's a message from a Mr. Saucy Nutmeg. What? Mr. Nutmeg? Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Nutmeg. Okay, sorry. I thought that was actually someone different. Okay. Mr. Nutmeg sent a message to me? But why would a policeman be delivering a message from Mr. Natsume? Exactly. What's going on? It's a Scotland Yard constable playing delivery boy at this time in the morning. What are you waiting for? Let me see that. Oh. Well, this is most unexpected. Is something wrong, Mr. Sholmes? Is something wrong, Mr. Sholmes? He says, have you not seen this note? No. How could I have? It would seem that London's criminals have no intention of letting the great detective rest. A new case calls, a case of murder, no less. We must depart at once. Murder? Call a cab. Time is of the essence. But the trouble is, we've yet to read Mr. Natsume's note. I was thinking we ought to pay him a visit in his lodging once we did.
That will be entirely convenient.
Convenient? What do you mean?
It's all here in the note, my dear fellows. The murder we must investigate took place at Mr. Mustache's lodging. No, what?
Wait, what? I'll hair a fiacre at once. Bro, there's a fucking murder at... Oh no, please don't tell me it's... Okay. It was only yesterday that Soseki-san was in court and we were dispelling doubts about his innocence. And now, the very next day, there's a murder at the man's own address? He may very well be the unluckiest man alive. Or so it seemed to us at the time, but we were soon to discover it was worse than we thought. Oh, God. Alright, let's see what the damage is. Who did it? What? Oh, it's this guy. This fucking weirdo that we saw earlier. What on earth? Oh my. The gentleman is deceased without question. He's dead. Come student to Mr. Hodo Esquire. Mr. Natsume. Oh, why? Why is this happening? Why to me? I've only just got out of court yesterday. I was finally home after 2 days of misery. And then I wake up the next day to this. No early bird should catch a worm like this. Woeful worm without wiggle.
I see you on high spirits again this morning, Mr. Mustache.
Ah! Not the horrible Herlock Sholmes. Show off. Show yourself the door. I never invited you. Mr. Sholmes came here with us. I'm quite sure he'll be able to help you, Mr. Natsume.
I'm entirely at your disposal, Mr. Mustache. What can I do for you?
You can fuck off! Arrgh!
Sup? Here they are already. The busybodies. Ah, Inspector Gregson, what a pleasant surprise. You have tea? No? Anyways, pleasant, is it? Gives me heartburn every time I see your face at a crime scene, Sholmes. Ah, I deduce, Inspector, that your heartburn is a result of your excessive consumption of fried food.
Good morning, Inspector.
This is a crime scene. Don't you go touching anything.
Or good morning to you too, Sunshine. Bro. How the fuck does this keep happening to this dude? Also, where the fuck are we? Oh, we're on the lower levels, so... It looks like he got poisoned from the looks of it.
Oi, I said hands off. You're gonna mess up my crime scene.
Oh, no, I just wanted to look, that's all.
No chance. I know you're kind. You'll mess it up just by looking at it.
What the hell was that supposed to mean? Ugh, someone's in a bad mood.
There's certainly some bad air in here, isn't there?
Oh, that's probably why. Alright, sounds like I better talk to the inspector first and try to curry some favor. So, Inspector, what was the victim's name? And who was he?
Mr. William Shamspear. He was a lodger here. As you can probably tell, he was an actor. Bit of a dead loss as it happens. Or just dead.
Mr. Shamspear?
He was a landlord, old Mr. Garrett, and the other lodger, Mr. Natsume, who found him. The fella didn't rise at his usual hour, so Garrett got worried and kicked the door down.
But doesn't Mr. Garrett have a bad leg?
Yeah, you're right there. It was that jittery Japanese hunchback over there who actually did the kicking.
Really? Soseki-san? Damn.
Victim was pretty hard up, it seems. Even done some time inside for petty crimes. He had no money, no place to go, no friends, depressed.
His only acquaintances were the people in this house. Miserable life and miserable end to it. So, what exactly is Mr. Natsume still doing here? He's not involved in the investigation, so shouldn't you have sent him away from the crime scene? Well, I'm not saying it's because the fellow looks odd or anything, or that he's acts suspicious, or that I'm a bit of a racist and have bias towards you Japs. But I thought it would be prudent to take a statement from the culprit. I mean, cohabiter. You nearly said culprit there. And fuck you. Oh dear. Mr. Natsume appears to be under suspicion again. Certainly seems that way. He does just come across as such an odd fella, doesn't he? Poor man. How unfortunate. Anyway, I can't say much until the coroner gets here. But I don't think the fella's been a goner that long. The body's still warm. Even if the inspector would allow it, I don't think I could bring myself to touch a dead body. Now can we? Ugh. Alright, fine, I won't touch it. Alright, suck to him. What a terrible thing to have happened. It's only been 3 days since I was arrested for the incident on the pavement outside. And then, having finally regained my freedom, it starts all over again. Endless existence of excruciating experiences. So the victim lived here on the ground floor and your room is just 1 story up, isn't it? Yes, that's right. In a way, we were neighbors, I suppose. So, did you know the victim? Were you friends? What's the matter with Suseki-san now? It was an innocent enough question, wasn't it? Why does he seem so shaken by it? I suppose he wasn't a complete stranger. But did he ever invite me to his room? Never! On my honor, I swear it! What an extreme reaction. You're probably wishing you'd never asked now, aren't you, Mr. Naruhodo? When we found him here, I felt wretched, which is why I sent word asking you to come. Throw that inspector over there! The fuck is... What is he doing now? Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing? Ha! You need only to observe to know it, my dear fellow. Investigating, naturally. There's nothing natural about that pose. Mr. Sholmes, have you made some miraculous discovery? Patience, my dear madam. Patience. We've not been here in this room for more than 5 minutes. So far, all I've managed to deduce is what's actually happened. My goodness. But isn't that everything we need to know, Mr. Sholmes? Now that you propose the idea, I believe one could indeed see it that way. At the present time, I have managed to draw 2 incontrovertible conclusions. The first, that there was a physical struggle here last night in which the victim fought for his life. Are you sure? He looks like he was eating something. What? Mr. Natsume, what's wrong? Is something that Mr. Sholmes said significant somehow? No, don't mind me. Forget I was here. Okay. Anyways, my second conclusion is that there was a poison lingering in the air here last night that passed the victim's lips. Nonsense! Alright, Mr. Natsume, why are you reacting so extremely to Mr. Sholmes' deductions? No, please, pretend I'm not here. Invisible, ineffable, inscrutable, insignificant. Impossible to ignore. You must tell us everything, Mr. Sholmes. Spare no detail. But of course. Let the theatrical tragedy before us be unraveled by my great deductions, presented by For Your Pleasure in 2 Acts. We've heard of some truly astounding great deductions from Mr. Sholmes in the past. No doubt this will be no exception, but miracles will unfold before our eyes this time.
So, my dear fellows, for your delight and wonder, let the curtain rise. For Herlock Sholmes' Logic and Reasoning Spectacular Act 1.
Oh god. Here we go again. Cause of death. Okay.
Careful observations of the victim reveals to us the events that transpired in this disconsolate room last night. Foam at the mouth of the deceased clearly indicates the use of poison. Next to the victim, we notice a large dining plate which contains, you will observe, one half of a sizable bar of soap. Meaningful, indubitably. Why is this soap set so purposely upon the dish? Like the victim's last supper, in fact. Yes. Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course, the fork reveals the answer. What? It appears that the young man's appetite was his undoing. Taking up arms in the form of his coterie, the victim engaged in a deadly battle for his life. Yet the struggle against his hunger was in vain, for in the end he couldn't resist devouring the slippery feast. London's foul soap is besmirched by foul poison. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the contents of the plate. What? The soap and the lather about the young man's mouth are too perfectly matched to ignore. The cause of death was clearly intoxication due to excessive indigestion of foul soap. Though personally, I have a greater interest in the taste of foul candle wax, of course.
The man thinks he fought for his life while eating a bar of poisonous soap? Oh god, suicide or murder? Okay.
The cause of death identified, we proceed to Act 2, where we ponder the next question. Was this suicide or murder? The audience will recall that death occurred during the victim's last supper. Did the man dine and die alone? The single teacup suggests the answer. To draw a conclusion on such meager evidence would be foolish, however, certainly. The careful criminal could have absconded with his own cup to cover his tracks. Well, allow me to lift the veil of doubt, my dear fellow.
Why does he keep fucking reacting like that?
Indeed, what reveals the answer, of course, is the broken lock. So forced open now at the time of the incident. His door was locked.
Well, yeah, it was because they... Okay.
The sole key was in the victim's pocket. In other words, when the victim consumed the poison, he must have been alone. Alone with his inferior soap from whence wafted an inferior scent. And with that acrid aroma lingering in the air, the victim met his end, in tragic solitude. We can take comfort only in the fact that his soul was well cleansed on its way to the hereafter.
Okay. Okay. That was a lot of stuff to unpack there.
And thus concludes the final act of Herlock Sholmes' great deductions.
Even Susato's like, what the fuck, man? And Greg is obviously not impressed. There's just one thing, Mr. Sholmes.
You are disposed to identifying just one thing, aren't you, Mr. Naruto? Pray, what concerns you?
Well, no matter how hungry he was, do you really think the man would have eaten soap?
It is quite apparent that this man had barely a penny to his name. It is a curious thing, but to one so destitute, soap can suddenly appear quite irresistibly appetizing.
How extraordinary. No, no, stop. Don't indulge in this, man.
In truth, I have tried a little soap myself in the past.
Oh, God.
You've eaten it, you mean? My dear fellow, it was some time ago now. My postulation was that it would cleanse my gut.
And did it?
As I writhed in agony on the floor and spilled the contents of my stomach. Yes, I believe it did. Experience taught me a valuable lesson. Soap is quite poisonous. It has an unpleasant taste and leads to a great discomfort. In summary, I cannot recommend it.
Believe me, I wouldn't eat it, even if you did. There's something that troubles me as well, actually. Oh, what's that? It's Mr. Natsume. Oh! I couldn't help noticing him shuddering and quivering out of the corner of my eye. Almost as if Mr. Shom's deductions touched a nerve somehow. Nonsense! Well, that clenched teeth episode didn't last. I think, judging by Mr. Natsume's reaction, the great detective's deductions may need some gentle corrections in order to reach the actual truth. Yeah, Mr. Shom's observations and deductions are sometimes a little too sharp. He has a tendency to hit the nail on the side of the head and drive it in an obtuse angle. When he does that, it falls to us to straighten things out. Alright then, let's see what we can do. Yes, we must pick out the key words in Mr. Shom's quite brilliant deductions. Yes, brilliant. And discreetly exchange them for something that makes a little more sense. If we can do that, I'm sure we'll arrive at what Mr. Shom's meant to say in the first place.
In that case, are you ready for the second performance of the day? Once again, my dear fellows, for your continued delight and wonder, let the curtain rise. For Herlock Sholmes, Logic and Reasoning Spectacular Act 1.
Alright. Alright, I'm not gonna reread again. That does bring up a good question. Why does the man have a fucking bar of soap? It might be just that he... Honestly, I would believe more that the man just committed fucking this dude's face. Well, you can't deny that a fork implies the man was eating something or about to eat something. Yes, that's true. If I were to decide to eat some soap, I should prefer to use a fork than to attempt it with chopsticks. And of course, only half the bar of soap is left on the plate. But might there not be some other explanation? Something material that proves whether or not the man really ate some soap? Okay, hold on, it's right there.
Take that!
Wow, that was easy. We just found the other piece of the soap that was on the ground. Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course. The other piece of soap reveals the answer. It being the other half of the soap on the table, in short, the victim was not eating soap at all. But it's obvious, really, for no depths of hunger could drive any man to attempt to eat soap. Even I, with my unquenchable thirst for practical knowledge, took only one bite. But that begs the question of how the man was poisoned, because there's no sign of any food on the table. Excellent observation, Mr. Naruhodo. One that furnishes us with the answer we seek. Okay. Mr. Sholmes is still pushing the soap argument then. Perhaps he's suggesting the man licked the soap rather than ate it. Soap in London is that poisonous? I don't think I want to be washing my hands with it. There are no signs of any food in the room at all. Of course, food isn't the only thing that passes people's lips, is it? It's true. Would be the contents of the teacup?
Take that!
Yeah, teacup. We're on a roll. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the teacup.
Indeed, cups have been the vessel of choice for practicing poisoners over the centuries. And it would appear that the victim drank every last drop.
There's no sign of food anywhere in the room.
Which leads us to the immutable conclusion. The cause of death was clearly intoxication due to the ingestion of poison contained in this teacup.
Alright, there we go. We solved that. Didn't take much of any... Okay. Ah, man, this guy gives me a headache. The man died and died. Okay. Oh, the Western vessel for infused hot drinks again. It's already featured heavily in our deduction so far. Yes, we can imagine that shortly before his death, Mr. Shamspear was having a drink of tea. There would be nothing remarkable about that, but what troubles me is Mr. Natsume's reaction when he heard Mr. Sholmes suggest it. It's more to this deduction than it seems. We must closely examine the scene of the crime again for some more clues. Wait, hold on. He's holding another teacup?
Take that!
Brother. Did the man dine and die alone? This other teacup suggests the answer. Yes, there were 2 teacups in this room all along. Ah. In other words, this is a strong indication that the victim's Last Supper, there was a guest present.
At the very least, we can now say with certainty that somebody else was here in this very room last night, taking tea with the victim.
Oh, what are you talking about? Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly unreasonable.
Draw a conclusion on such meager evidence would be foolish, however. Certainly.
In which case, what more can we deduce about this possible guest at the table?
Well, allow me to lift the veil down, my dear fellow.
You mean to say you know who exactly was in this room at the time of the victim's death?
Indeed. What reveals the answer, of course, is the broken lock.
Okay, first off, I'm not sure I like where this deduction is going now. I'm afraid it's too late to go back to the halcyon days of eating too much soap. The identity of the guest who was in here last night when the victim passed away is something I have a very bad feeling about. Well, you can try to ignore your feelings, but we cannot ignore the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, I suppose not. Time to look around again. Empty bottle. There's something in the pile of books? At first glance, it seems that the only thing in this room are the makeshift stage and the costumes. I overlooked the 3 books initially. I wonder what they are. Let's see, the titles read The Picture of Monsieur Lecoq, Canterbury Yearnings, and A Meal for Gabriel. I can't even pronounce that. Wait, I'm sure I've heard those titles before. It could just be an incredible coincidence, but they're the exact same 3 books that Mr. Natsume purchased the other day. What? Yeah, on the day of the unfortunate incident when Miss Green was stabbed. Joseki-san had just been to a bookshop and bought them. That's right. And now those 3 titles are here in the room of the victim. Yet Mr. Natsume claims never to have been here before. What does this mean? Do you think... I really don't know what to make of it.
Take that!
Yeah, okay. Indeed, what reveals the answer, of course, is the pile of familiar books.
Quite so. It's no mere coincidence that these 3 titles are here in this room. It's the link to the truth.
Mr. Natsume, you purchased these books 4 days ago at a second-hand bookshop. That's just a coincidence. In that case, you will be able to bring the same 3 titles from your own room, will you not? This very moment. No, never, not negotiable. If you can't bring your own copies here, it proves that these 3 books are in fact yours. Having purchased the books 4 days ago and returned to your lodgings, you were arrested the very next day. So you could conceivably have brought the books here on that evening, but you never mentioned that. In other words, you could only have brought these 3 books here to the victim's room. Last night, having returned to your lodgings after the trial concluded at the Old Bailey. In short, there's only one possible conclusion. The victim died here in this room last night as a result of poisoning. And that same night, the victim had a visitor. That visitor? Was you, Mr. Soseki Natsume. Thus concludes the final act of Herlock Sholmes' great deduction. Nice. Ah, so it was Soseki-san. Deduction completed. Elementary. Man, he looks like he's about to take a shit. Not again, not again, not again. Not again. Well then, Mr. Natsume. It would appear you're going to have to accompany me down to the yard. But wait! Hold your horses! Yeah? Door, key, locked, entry, exit, entirely impossible. So flustered, he's being even stranger than normal. What, you think that's an alibi? You could have just made a copy. What? You live in the same building after all, you'd have plenty of opportunities, I'm sure. But... Misery me! Sorry, sir. You'll get your chance to give your side of the story later. The facts speak for themselves, Mr. Mustache. You horrible Herlock Sholmes! Really has found himself an arch rival now, hasn't he? Come on now, no dilly-dallying. Outside, there's a carriage waiting. Welcome, student Mr. Naruto Esquire. I never imagined I'd be in this position again, but you have to help me. Please, please, I'm innocent. All right, I understand. I'll come to your cell later and talk about it. Oh, and one more thing. Yeah? My poor little kitty cat. Please give him his breakfast for me. And so, his evil curse still apparently unbroken, Soseki-san found himself once again the prime suspect in a case of murder. Again. In a span of 4 days. Thanks to the incriminating deduction of the great detective. My dear fellow, that honor belongs to you. You're the one that put him in prison. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm the one that corrected him. Well, at least that means Inspector Gregson is no longer here. We can examine the crime scene in more detail now. Yes, that's right. Ah, and of course. What? Have you forgotten what the inspector mentioned before? It was the landlord, Mr. Garadeb, who discovered Mr. Shamspear. Oh yeah, Mr. John Garadeb. I remember him. I expect we could find him in his sitting room on the top floor as usual. Right. We gotta remember to go and talk to him later then. Alright, so let's take a look at him.
Oh, the poor man. So young to die. Do you suppose it was a very painful death, being poisoned as he was?
I don't know. All we can do now is hope that he'll be reborn to a better life.
Yes, I suppose you're right. I wonder... Do you think that putting our hands together in a Japanese prayer will help a British soul?
Sorry?
I made sure I had a reference at the ready for such an occasion as this, actually. This book is entitled The Beginner's Guide to Praying for the Departed, the British way. Rule Britannia. I'll just reread it now. One moment.
There's quite a spine on that book, isn't there? What was that? What's this? Looks like part of an envelope. I think.
Yes, I think you may be right. Perhaps it was torn off when the letter was opened.
That's significant.
Well, it's a little out of place perhaps when you look around the room. There's no sign of a letter or the rest of the envelope, in fact, is there?
Huh, she's right.
And yet here we have the torn off end of the envelope. It just strikes me as unusual.
I agree. Better take this just in case. Okay. Let's see, what else is there? Okay, nothing here. Wait, actually... Really? That's as far as I can go? Now, what is this?
This is some sort of makeshift stage, I think. Isn't it?
Where does the audience even sit, though, for the nightly Shakespeare performances?
Actors aspiring to the great stage must practice their art, Mr. Naruhodo, with or without an audience. In fact, on a related note, perhaps you should set up a mock bench for the defense in your office.
What?
Then you could practice your art every single day.
Yeah, no. I'll think about it. If you promise to don a beard and play the role of the judge.
Well, if that would help you achieve your goal.
This I have to see. Alright. I'm gonna go talk to Mr. Garrett and then we'll call it. Ah, yes. The British officer's main quarters. Well, living room. Oh, this is his room. Here we are again. The eccentric landlord's eccentric top floor abode.
We're here because of Mr. Garrett's the one who discovered the incident this morning. Don't forget.
Well, well, well. It's you, chaps.
Yes. Good morning, sir.
Thank you for your cooperation in court yesterday.
It was quite a trial. As much for Mr. Garrett as anyone, really.
Came straight back here after all that business at the Bailey yesterday. Didn't expect to wake up to more bally nonsense this morning.
I wonder if you wouldn't mind telling us exactly what happened, Mr. Garrett.
Yes. I suppose you'd like that, wouldn't you? About all that dead loss of an actor chap in the ground floor room.
Those were exactly Inspector Gregson's words, weren't they? Alright, let's talk. Must have been a real shock for you this morning. I heard that you discovered what had happened.
Well, that hopeless actor chap rises at 5 o'clock sharp every morning without fail. But at 5:30 this morning, he still hadn't lit the gas. Struck me odd. So I went down and knocked on his door. No bally answered.
And that's when you broke into his room by kicking down the door?
Well, I called on that rum-looking Japanese chap to do the grunt work, of course.
Wasn't it a little premature to kick the door down? The man could have just overslept by half an hour.
That's very true, Mr. Naruhodo. If 30 minutes oversleeping warranted such behavior. I'd have to kick your door down every morning.
You know, better to be safe than sorry and all that.
Yeah, where is she? I don't know, man. Is it just me, or is he avoiding our gaze now all of a sudden? Except that it was a sorry situation indeed that you found on the far side of the door. The victim's name is Mr. Shamspear, I believe. Is that right?
Yep, William Shamspear. Took the ground floor room 3 months ago now.
And how would you describe him?
In a word, destitute.
Destitute?
Well, let's face it, the only redeeming feature of that room is the cheap rent. Anyone wanting to live in a place like that is either broke or has a bally screw loose.
So hard to choose which category Suseki-san would fall into. Mr. Naruhodo, that's a little rude.
I was doing research as well.
Research? Into what?
Shakespeare, of course. Shakespeare. Read a few plays of the old bard himself, you know, Romeo and Hamlet and all that.
Ah, yes. William Shakespeare is England's most highly regarded classical playwright and author. He's known as Sao in Japanese, as you know, and many of his works have already been translated. It seems incredible that Shakespeare was shortened to Sao, though someone was too heavy-handed there. There were a lot of costumes in the victim's room, actually, weren't there? Of course, Mr. Natsume is a scholar of English literature as well. I imagine he and Mr. Shamspear would have had much in common. Shakespeare interpretation disagreement leads to shocking murder. Let's hope it's not that. Mr. Naruhodo, really? How rude. Alright. After Mr. Natsume's trial yesterday, you came straight back here, I believe, didn't you? Did you notice anything strange between then and this morning?
Oh, now, Must have been around 6 in the evening by the time I got home. Snow was coming down rather heavily as I remember. It was completely dark already. That failed actor chap was out at the time.
So Garrett noticed there was no light from his room or something, I suppose.
Couldn't summon the energy for anything much, so I just sat in front of the fire up here. It was after 8 before Shamspear got back. And the chap was up until past 1 in the morning, I'll have you know. Suppose he met his end sometime after that. I was asleep by then. I'm rather in the dark there.
Well, thank you. That was very illuminating. Is everything alright, Mrs. Sato? Well, I was just thinking it's a little strange, that's all. Mr. Garrett, you were up here in your room all evening, if I've understood, correct?
I'm not a big fan of stairs, not with this blasted leg.
Then, how is it that you seem to know? The precise movement of your tenant on the ground floor, I mean.
That's
actually a very good point. I can't imagine you could hear noises from the ground floor all the way up here. Does this old man like to spy on his tenants? Is that it?
Well, I say I know what you're thinking, and it's a bally outrage. I'm ex-military, don't you know? I don't go around spying on my tenants. Why would I?
Then how did you know Mr. Garrett?
It's the gas, woman. The gas tells me everything.
The gas? What on earth do you mean, sir? How can the gas tell you anything, let alone everything?
Well, as you're probably aware, the gas is supplied to the building by pipes.
Yeah, I more or less worked that out. Ah, that's right. Everyone's room in the building is connected by a single pipe to the gas main outside. And the gas company supplies gas to properties via the main. Yeah, I understand that too.
Let me see if I can explain. Let's say I was to light a gas lamp up here. What do you suppose would happen?
Well, obviously the room would get brighter.
Exactly. But at the same time, the lights in all the other rooms of the house would dim for a moment.
What? They dim? Why?
Perhaps it's because when you light a gas lamp, it briefly uses more gas than usual. And that reduces the amount of gas in the pipe for the other lamps that are connected to it. That might explain why the other lamps dim momentarily, mightn't it? Yeah, of course. Because everything's connected to a single supply pipe. Is that supposed to happen, though? It sounds rather undesirable.
Yeah, jolly good point. Fact is, the gas company's pipes in these parts are pretty hopeless, long worn out. And barely got any gas in them to start with. Opposite's also true, of course. Extinguish the lamps up here and they grow brighter in the rest of the house.
Ah, right. I see. So by watching the flickering of the lamps in one room, you can determine what's happening elsewhere.
You've got it.
Oh, of course, because when people come back home in the evening and before they go to sleep at night, what they're guaranteed to do is either light or put out their lamps and fires. Clever.
In point of fact, the room on the ground floor and the room above it uses slightly different amounts of gas. By watching the lights in here closely, I can work out almost exactly what's going on in the whole house.
Gosh, that's fascinating, Mr. Garrett. Absolutely fascinating.
Oh well, nothing to it really.
I can't really see that it's going to help us with the case either. What I'd like to know is why Mr. Garrett is so interested in what his tenants are up to in the first place. I feel like there's more to it than idle curiosity. Alright. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and end it right here. We've gone a good hour and 10 minutes. So, for now, I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. I will probably be streaming tomorrow. Either I'll continue off playing the Ace Attorney, or I'll probably go back to a little bit of Baldur's Gate. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Until then, have a good night, have a good morning.